how can she possibly turn this into a full-on topic? 3 words. Masks of Thespis. If you know, you know, but in case you don't, Thespis is the guy behind the iconic laughing and crying theater masks. But what many people don't know is that these masks actually have names. The crying mask is often given the name Melpomene, after the muse of tragedy, while the laughing mask is usually called Thalia, after the muse of comedy. The muses never really starred in their own saga. They were more like cosmic background singers for the arts, than the only redeeming quality of Disney's Hercules film. But one person took these 9 muses, or at least their faces, on the road. Thespis. First actor? We'll get into that. Circa 534 BCE, it would be a common sight to see a man in a horse-drawn cart loaded with costumes and masks and all kinds of theatrical equipment. This man traveled from city to city, performing on stage to the largest crowds that ancient Greece could drum up. This man, born in Icarius, was modern-day Dionysus, was named Thespis, and according to Aristotle and others, he was potentially the very first actor ever to appear in human history. His name is even where we get the term thespian. He was often called the inventor of tragedy, not because he was a particularly troubled individual, but because his specific style of stage storytelling evolved, according to Aristotle's first-hand accounts, from the dithyramb. These were hymns sung and danced in honor of Dionysus, and were often performed by satyrs, 50 of them. Real or costumed actors, that's anybody's guess, but probably a mixture of both. So, Thespis invented the Greek tragedy by dressing up in masks and either singing or acting out poetry, and this is what made his style of entertainment so unique. Thespis introduced a new style in which one singer or actor performed the words of an individual character, rather than appearing to speak as himself. This, coupled with the traditional Greek chorus, is what made the new style, called tragedy, as one of the 3 principal genres of ancient Greece and Anatolia, along with comedy and satyr play. Thespis' tragedy style became so popular that in 534 BCE, competitions were held in Athens to find the best tragedy performance, and it was even Thespis who won the first ever documented competition. After that, he took it a step further and took his entire show on the road, also single-handedly inventing theatrical touring. Thespis assembled a troupe and took his gig on the road all across Greece, at one point stopping at the base of Olympus, where they were celebrating the marriage of 2 of his members, Sparkeion and Neesimus. The first problem is that none of the actors have any money, so none of them have any food to contribute to the party. The groom, Sparkeion, keeps flirting with his former fiancée Daphne right in front of his new wife, Neesimus, and Neesimus tries to turn around and flirt with Thespis in turn, but the troop leader refused to get involved in the wedding drama because he's too cool and aloof of a guy. But up at Olympus, the gods were having a time. Mercury complained that the older gods were lazy and had been lumping all of their responsibilities to him alone, uncredited. And Jupiter usually pays an exposure, usually of himself. Since all the Olympians had shirked their responsibilities for so long, the father of the gods declared a state of crisis, but being the stellar leader that Jupiter is, had absolutely no idea how to fix it. Until he saw Thespis and decided, you know what we need to do? We need to meddle in these mortals' lives. Always ends well, doesn't it? Just keep the almighty Swanshagger away from the bride. But then, we're talking about the Roman equivalents, so I guess there are some differences. So, Jupiter took Mars and Apollo to Earth with him, and scared the absolute shit out of Thespis' entire troupe. Except for, of course, the cool and aloof Thespis, who just kind of looked the gods over like a Whiterun guard and said, "Am I supposed to be impressed?" Well, this threw Jupiter quite the curveball, and while he's trying to figure out how to clap back at that, Thespis came up with a plan. If the gods were so concerned with what mortals thought, they should come down to Earth in disguise, mingle with the mortals, and judge for themselves what people think of them. Could you imagine how that'd go today? Oh my god. Usually gods mingling with mortals is a Molotov cocktail of malefactorial curses, hurt feelings, and illegitimate demigods, but somehow they were actually able to behave themselves while away on holiday this time. Jupiter agreed, and the gods invest the actors with their powers, and Thespis and his group agree to keep things running smoothly on Olympus in return. In classic Greek tragedy and style, each actor takes on a role in place of one of the gods, complete with a full divine portfolio. Thespis even got to be the ruler of the gods himself. The only one who didn't go is Mercury, the one they've been shouldering all of their responsibility on anyway. He stayed to be an advisor to Thespis and his group, like a cosmic intern or something. Within a year, Thespis and his group had restored Olympus to its former splendor, and all of the Thespians in their godly roles sat around eating the godly foods of nectar and ambrosia. Thespis was a very liberal god, advising his troop to not be hampered by routine and red tape and precedent. This, of course, is where things went horribly awry, because it ended up throwing all the celestial alignments into a mixer that should have been stirred but not shaken. Mercury comes to Thespis with a laundry list of complaints from the mortals on Earth. Many of the substitute gods are either not performing their tasks well, or outright refusing. Timidian is a pacifist and a coward, and he's playing Mars. To make matters worse, his daughter, Prothetia, is playing Venus, but the two of them are supposed to be married. They tried to do a workaround by having her married to Vulcan, but Vulcan was being played by her grandfather. The substitute for the god Hymen was refusing to marry anyone, and the guy playing Pluto is too kind and soft to let anyone die. Kind of like if Bree were suddenly made into a psychopomp.
Hey!
And remember the newlyweds? Well, Sparkation takes on Apollo's role, and Neesimus is playing Diana. Not only does this complicate them now acting as brother and sister, it means that the sun is constantly out there at night, accompanying the moon on its nocturnal crossings up the sky. Of course, Daphne takes this as an excellent opportunity to continue her earlier shenanigans. Posing as the muse Calliope, she comes to Thespis with a version of the Greek myths in which Calliope is married to Apollo. And Thespis agrees, saying that Sparkation and Daphne are married while they're gods, but that his marriage to Neesimus will resume once the real gods return. Now, there are no versions of Greek myth that I could find that suggest Calliope was married to Apollo. However, there are enough attestations that he fathered at least one, if not two, children by her. So, not an exhaustive list of complaints, but needless to say, have you ever taken any significant time off of work, gotten your buddy to cover your shift, and then when you get back to the office, nothing works, and none of your stuff is where it's supposed to be? Your favorite stapler is missing, no one's cleaned the bathrooms, and emails from clients are totaling in the hundreds. Picture that, but for an entire cosmology. The gods were furious upon their return, telling Thespis he had deranged the whole scheme of society. And Thespis just said, "Hey, relax, guy!" And the list of complaints is about to be read aloud. So the gods keep their disguises on, so they can see just how badly the troop has done. Despite all of this, Thespis looks up at Jupiter and says, "So, we can stay, right?" Jupiter ripped off the mask, and the rest of the gods quickly throw off their disguises. Furious at the absolute turmoil and mess they had left things in, Not only does he cast them off of Olympus, but he curses them, forever known as eminent tragedians whom no one ever goes to see, which is why you never hire an actor to handle politics.
Gee! You know, this is the problem. Nobody listens to their history. They repeat it.
Oh, wait. I forgot. These guys don't have gods that actually exist. In that case, this is the plot of the 1871 comic opera by Gilbert and Sullivan. Yes, that Gilbert and Sullivan. Pirates of Penzance. I am a very model of a scientist Solarian. Modern Major General. You get the idea. The masks that Thespis and the others used weren't just simple face coverings. I know when you Google up masks of Thespis and bring up the first image, you're probably going to see something like this. One crying, one laughing.
Like Gangle!
These masks are more symbolic than what was actually worn. They're the representation of comedy and tragedy, that blending that Thespis used. The actual masks were full head coverings, like the mask of the shapeshifter from Baldur's Gate 3. However, these big open mouths here actually served as a resonance chamber. Actors speaking into the mask would amplify their voices like a megaphone in order to better project to the audience. So the masks themselves were kind of like instruments for the actors in lieu of boom mics and speakers. The reason for this was not only to amplify the volume of their voice, but also help clearly define every consonant or vowel the actor was speaking. Consonants, when speaking, are where slurring speech usually happens. Bree has to remind me constantly to slow down when I'm recording because the longer I talk, the more anxious I get. And the more anxious I get, the faster I go. And the faster I go, the more words run together.
Slow down, Egg.
And this is why the skills for actors and orators in ancient Athens were strong voices, the capability to modulate not only volume but also pitch and rhythm. They had to be able to recite their lines as well as sing, and would even resort to regular vocal training, including dietary restrictions to keep their vocals trained like an instrument. Aristotle even defined acting as a matter of the voice, saying that because words are imitations, and the voice also, which all of our parts is best adapted for imitations. To that regard, actors today still do what's called mask work, by acting out scenes, often in plain masks with no true discernment of character. This is to inspire the actor to express with their whole body and their voice, since facial cues can't be read. And this is something that's useful in voice acting or narration as well. You guys can't see me behind my mask, whether it's an avatar or just a screen. So I'm mostly left with just my voice in order to make a connection. The masks that Thespis wore weren't just costumes, they were amplifiers. And that's still what voice acting, voice work, and even YouTube is about. Finding a way to connect louder, clearer, and in a more human way. I hope I did that with you. And if you want to know more about this picture and the story behind it, go check out that time that Bree and I taught a gnome how to fly. Now's the time where I push the Patreon page. Patreon is the best place for you to support us directly. There are a lot of available extras to keep you entertained, including extra chapters of Monomyth and some hints to future projects as well. Right now, indie artists like us need all the support we can get, and everything you give helps keep this story and this channel alive. Ultimately, it's up to every one of you that shows up each week to watch our videos, and I really can't thank you enough. For those of you who've joined us on Patreon, I'd like to give a shout out to Emily Mastronardi, Heinrich28, Pammy Poo, JC Moreland, Shadow Fox, Charles Tam, Arya Kabari, and Lunder Lumen. Also a big shout out to our channel members, Chain Furry. You can become a channel member and get access to my weekly content before anyone else. Many a Meko Maxamako. That means many small things make a big thing.